And now, another Rock Sports Network presentation.
And what a morning it is out here on the quad. Picture perfect Saturday afternoon here in Midtown. Down three, 1, 2, 3, yeah!
Welcome to the Ozone Football Show. I'm Brendan McDaniels alongside our normal cast of characters. Jamil Dumas, former linebacker for the Orange, former wide receiver for the Orange, Andre Fontenette, and we're also joined by our special guest, legendary upstate New York journalist Scott Pitoniak is with us. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about. We're going to talk about the Syracuse-NC State game. We'll preview the Pitt game. We'll talk about why Dino Babers is talking about rose-colored glasses. All that is coming up on this edition of the Ozone. We want to start off first. We've got Scott here. He was just on the OT show with Dan Borello. We decided to keep him over because we saw this wonderful book, Forever Orange by Scott Pitoniak. It's a huge book, and it's got a lot of sports in it, so we wanted to take some time to talk about the sports part and obviously the football part in it because we got our football guys in here. Scott, first of all, thanks a lot for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, guys.
Legend.
Respect.
Respect.
That's the first time I've heard legend used with me, but we're lowering the standards.
No, we're bumping them up right now. We're not looking back. So, and you've written a lot of books, and this one's important to you because it was 150 years coming up of the founding of Syracuse University. You're a Syracuse grad. You live in Rochester, so your proximity. You've covered the Orange for many, many years. Something near and dear to your heart. And this book has a lot of everything from the university. Talking about Sportscaster U, everything along that. Just tell us give us a little bit of overview of what we can find inside the book.
Well, it's amazing. Like you mentioned, sports obviously is a big part of SU's identity through 150 years and stuff. But it goes so our reach goes so beyond just the sports end of it. The foreword to the book is written by Eileen Collins, who was the first female pilot and commander of the space shuttle. We've got a strong NASA connection. We've had 4 astronauts come out of Syracuse. The head of NASA, Sean O'Keefe, who still teaches at the Maxwell School, comes out of there. We've got world-changing people, the woman who started the Head Start program, the woman who started literacy volunteers to teach people how to read, Dr. Jarvik, the first artificial heart, and great writers, and as you mentioned, sportscasters, and obviously some of the greatest athletes of all time, starting with Jim Brown, who many regard as the greatest football player and the greatest lacrosse player of all time, but also a guy, like when you look at it, was tremendously into, a social activist. And also a person who opened doors for African Americans in Hollywood. He was the first African American action hero in the movies, and he opened the doors for so many others. So there's just a lot of extraordinary people and a lot of extraordinary events that took place at SU.
Well, speaking from a sports aspect, what's something in the book that you talk about, obviously without giving away the farm because you want people to buy the book, but what's one of those things that you talk about in the book sports-wise that maybe the casual fan would be surprised about?
Well, we used to have a really solid baseball program. We haven't had one since, when I was in school in the 70s, they dropped it.
There's no baseball.
There is no baseball. We're the only ACC school without a baseball team. But we had a very good program, and we actually can stump people by saying that Syracuse actually had a most valuable player in the National League. Jim Constanti was a 4-sport letterman at Syracuse. Played basketball, soccer, boxed, and played baseball. And he won the National League MVP for the Philadelphia Phillies. Another thing, the Yankees logo with the bat and the hat, the Uncle Sam hat and so forth, was designed by a Syracuse graduate and stuff. So there's a ton of these little things.
All right.
All over the place, like the sun never sets on the Orange Empire. There's people all over the place. And in sports, obviously, here's a little tidbit that you guys will appreciate. The number 44, we all know, the significance of that, right? It's in the phone exchange. It's in the zip code of Syracuse, and obviously, Jim Brown and Ernie Davis and Floyd Little and Rob Conrad and on and on. Well, it could have been 33, could have been the number, because Jim Brown was a tremendous four-sport athlete at Manhasset High School on the island, Long Island. And he wore number 33 in football. And so he gets to Syracuse, and it's time, to hand out the numbers and stuff. And he requested, I want number 33 because that number's special to me and stuff. And Al Zach, who was a long time equipment guy, noticed that 44 was already being worn by someone. So he goes, well, I know this guy's going to be a running back, I'll give you double digits. So he gave him 44, and that's how the legend began. That's how the legend.
Totally random.
Began.
I did
Get
not
that
know
book.
Yeah.
Get the book. Now, Scott, let me ask you one question. Just, obviously, I've never written a book, and you've been in magazines, television, radio, film, all that kind of stuff. How long does a production like this take to make?
Well, Rick Burton, who's a professor at Syracuse in the Falk School, and I, it took us a good 4 years.
Wow.
Now, I could joke and say, the research actually began back in the 70s when we were students there, because we got a lot of fun things in here about M Street and stuff like that.
I don't know anything
That's
about
what
that.
I wanna
I don't know
know.
anything about M Street.
Coaches didn't want you guys down on M Street or whatever.
He was down there. I wasn't.
Hey.
Guy code, breaking it.
Marshall Street, for all you not familiar, is kind of it's interesting. It's the main street of the Syracuse campus, even though it's not technically on campus. It's
Nope,
just
right
off
campus.
campus
Yep.
and stuff. But yeah, it's just it took us 4 years. But like I said, I could joke and say well, we were researching it back in the 70s when we were
You
students.
didn't even
there,
know
so
it, but you were researching
That's right.
it.
We didn't know it at that time.
Nice. Nice.
Now, Jamil has a question on
I
the
wasn't
heels
going
of
to ask
that.
it
but
because we're finding that kind of took it right now. But speaking about M Street, Syracuse, Brendan, you'd be happy to hear this. #1 party school in the nation. So I was just wondering, if there's anything in the book that kind of covers some of the antics or shenanigans that go on M Street? Or
Yeah. Well, especially M Street. There was when they won the national championship, I think in 1959, there was a celebration to end all celebrations in football down there.
I was there in 03.
Ooh, that was a celebration.
When
And there-
Carmelo and Hakeem Work and those guys won that championship.
And that is in there. And we should also mention that there was a naked guy who climbed a
It
tree.
wasn't me. It wasn't me.
The photo is not in the book. Okay,
Everybody felt
But
like they won the national championship that night.
Mention of that. Yeah. I mean, you know how it was. It was like a zoo. And I was actually there, guys, in the 70s when SU went to its first Final Four.
Oh, wow.
And let me tell you, I mean, the Final Four wasn't quite as big as it is now, the NCAA basketball tournament stuff, but it was huge. And all of a sudden, I swear, even the sun was shining the next day after Syracuse made it to the Final Four out in San Diego and stuff like that. But we tried to capture a little bit of everything, have a little fun with it. We've got 44 essays in the middle of the book on 44 of the greatest alumni of all time. We don't say they're the greatest because it's a personal choice, but we got a bunch of people in different fields, a lot of sports people, obviously, the Dave Bings and the Jim Boeheims and the Ernie Davises and the Jim Browns and Floyd Little, who did the afterword to the book. And Floyd is, Floyd's one of the great alums of all time at SU and one of the great guys,
And Scott, you've been around for a long time as a student, observer, journalist. And one of the interesting things going now is the renovations to the Carrier Dome. And you were around for Archibald Stadium, Manley Fieldhouse, morphing into the original Carrier Dome. Now we're calling it just the Dome. And now it's going to be renovations. How has the athletic program kind of evolved as they evolved from these humble beginnings to having the largest on-campus indoor facility and the Dome being nationally recognized as one of the great venues of college sports?
Yeah, it's great that you bring that up because when I was in school, they had Archibald Stadium, and Archibald Stadium when it opened in 1908 was
It was literally open.
it was regarded as the eighth wonder of the world. It was the most impressive football stadium in the country. Well, it deteriorated by the time I was there, 7 decades later, to the point where when I was in school, they would not show the recruits the stadium unless they requested it. And I swear this is not. There were football-sized rats that were in the locker room and stuff. It had deteriorated to that point. To his credit, Frank Maloney, who did not have a winning record there, but who really campaigned to say if you want to compete on Division I level, you got to get a new stadium. And they looked at the New York State Fairgrounds. They looked off campus at a lot of places, and then they finally decided let's have it right here on campus, and we're going to shoehorn it right where Archibald Stadium was. And one of the great feats, 1979, Syracuse team, goes to a bowl game, they play every single game on the road. And people don't appreciate just how hard that is. They went 6-5. They should have beaten a bad Boston College team down at Shullcoff Field at Cornell. But
All of Boston College teams are bad.
Yeah,
They're
but that was a
terrible.
team that had some great guys, like Art Monk, who Pro Football Hall of Fame. Joe Morris was a great back, still the all-time leading rusher in SU history. They had a number of guys who went to the NFL. But anyway, getting back to your question, like when they built that dome, that changed everything. And as you mentioned, it's one of the most iconic buildings, sports arenas in the country, not just in college sports, but in any sport. People recognize that. They see the dome, they see the aerial shot, and of course what it's become for basketball. And Boeheim, I was there covering it, did not want to go and move from Manley Fieldhouse. We were at Manley, and you were breathing on top of guys when they were inbounding the balls. It was an intimidating place. But they go there, they thought maybe we'll draw a couple extra thousand, like Manley held about 9,500 when you stuffed everybody in. And they go to the carrier to go, maybe we'll draw 11, 12,000. And then, Pearl Washington shows up, and everything changes for Syracuse basketball. I mean, they become a national program when he shows up, and 30,000 became the routine. There was like one season they averaged 29,000 fans a game. So the facilities have changed, and now it's time for the dome to be updated. I'm glad to see that they're going to stay on campus. And it's going to look bigger in that building when they get that permanent roof up. Those cranes are pretty awesome, aren't they, guys? Have you been back there?
Yeah.
Holy cow! And they're going to try to. They've got like they're going to stagger it in over several years, but finally get a concourse at certain points. They're going to make the concourse bigger, which we'll all enjoy.
Everybody's going to be happy with that.
Yeah, and and add some other things. They're going to be, the roof's going to be high enough, the permanent roof, where they can have a really good video board there, and you don't have to worry about the punter hitting it or whatever, and stuff. So I think they're going to do some things that's going to make it more modern, but yet, still have that be an intimidating place. And I think, Dino, he's still working to get this whole thing turned around. But I was there for the Clemson game, and it was electric until Clemson took control of the game. Right? It was an electric atmosphere in there, and it can be a tremendous home field advantage. When you get that place packed.
Well, and you're going to be there on Friday, so you're the good luck charm against Pitt, and you're also going to be signing your book too. So tell everybody where you're going to be.
We'll be at the bookstore right there on campus, on the SU campus, signing copies of the book. Rick Burton and I will be, and then, hopefully, hopefully we can get that offense going a little bit. And Tommy DeVito, who I have not given up on. I know a lot of Syracuse fans tend to jump off the wagon real quick on people, but I think if they can resolve some of these offensive line problems, I still think DeVito's going to be a very good quarterback by the time all is said and done. It's a transition period. He's young.
Still young.
Yep.
And we'll get into that.
Yeah, he's got 6 left. And then also, where can people find your book?
Amazon.com. Barnes & Noble has the book as well. Syracuse University bookstore as well.
Before you go, we're talking about this book from 2019. Can you just talk about a little bit from your 2014 book, 100 Things Syracuse Fans Should Know and Do Before They Die? I think this is an awesome concept. I just want to know a little bit about it. It's 2014, but it's still not too late to get.
Well, Andre, what was interesting about that was it was a combination of different things. Like, you're comparing apples and oranges. So, like, you have iconic people, Jim Boeheim, Jim Brown, and who do you choose as number one there? And then you have events. One of the events I included in there was Pearl Washington's half-court shot, or the Nebraska upset. I covered that, and I saw the impact that had on the program. So you've got a mix of people and places, like you've got venues, the Carrier Dome, Archbold Stadium, Manley Fieldhouse and stuff. So you're mixing and matching all those and kind of putting them into an inexact order or whatever. And the toughest thing was it came down to between Boeheim and Jim Brown. So here I got this guy who's the greatest football player of all time, the greatest lacrosse player of all time, has done all these other things. And I got this coach who's been there forever and, has built this little basketball program into a national powerhouse and stuff. So what do you do? So and there's no right or wrong here. I actually went with Boeheim as number one on this list of things you should know and do, only because he's been there at that time like 40 years. Now it's like 44 years as head coach, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to Jim was only there 4 years, So, but it was a tough call. It was a tough call. I mean, and you have a lot of those things, and it's what the books are meant to be like. Have some debates, like how could you rank this, ahead of this? And we've gotten even mascots are in there, or the marching band. I mean, there's 100 things to fill out there, and we tried to have some fun with it.
Well, that's great stuff. Well, Forever Orange right here. It's 5.5 pounds. Like, this is a perfect coffee table book. You can read it over time. A lot of great stuff. There's sports, everything else in there as well. Scott Pitoniak, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks,
We
guys.
appreciate it.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
We got a lot.
Too. Yeah,
We got a lot more Orezone coming up. When we come back, we're going to talk about the NC State game. We'll also preview Pitt. We'll also talk about why Dino Babers is talking about rose-colored glasses. Want to remind you that the Ozone is brought to you by Lattimore Physical Therapy and Sports Rehab. At Lattimore, their physical therapists enjoy the work they do and bring a positive attitude to their patients' therapy experience. They want their patients' therapy to be something they look forward to each and every session. If patients tell their friends and family about their success at Lattimore, they know they've done their job. LattimorePT.com. We'll be back right after this.
When I sprained my left knee, they did so much to help me at
Lattimore Physical Therapy. With 20 locations throughout Monroe and Livingston County, pain relief is never more than minutes away. Same-day appointments available. Most insurance accepted. Call 1-888-PT-ROCHS. Lattimore Physical Therapy.
Hi, my name is Henry, and I want to welcome you to Batavia Downs Gaming. We want you to love it, not just like it here. We went to our customers and asked them what we can do better. You said you wanted a hotel, so we built one. More and better food, we did that too. A separate place to smoke and play, we even did that. Batavia Downs Gaming Hotel is the right size with the right people in the right location. Batavia Downs Gaming. Come here to dine, stay, and play.
Only $7.99 for a Bill Gray's Great Plate every Tuesday.
Hi, I'm Steve Ralph. We've been selling cars for more than 80 years. Our best values are available right now at Ralph Honda.
Come see the 2020 Hondas. There's something for every lifestyle.
Whatever you're looking for in your next car, you'll find it at Ralph Honda.
Back on the Ozone Football Show, it's brought to you by Bill Gray's Restaurants, introducing the all-new Bill Gray's Tap Room in Chili, Paul Plaza in Chili, North Greece Road in Greece, and the Port of Rochester in Charlotte. For the world's greatest cheeseburgers, half-price shakes every day from 2:30 to 4:30, and family-friendly atmosphere. Gimme some Bill Gray's.
I'm from Chili. Chili Bill's Gray's where it's at.
I know, we've been there.
Chili Bill Gray's where it's at. It's
Well,
my
we got to go to the
hometown.
North Greece Road one. That's my home Bill Gray's. We'll hopefully be going there later on in this season. One thing that the Syracuse Orange didn't give us was a win on Thursday night, national TV, NC State. It was there for the taking, and they couldn't get it done. And Andre, I'm going to start with you on this
Please
one
do.
because we'll talk.
Please do.
Got to talk about the offense. This is a game that was set up for the offense to take control, and they couldn't.
Let's talk about the offense. What offense?
That's what we're asking
There
about.
was no offense, my man.
No eye contact. No eye contact.
They did not play well offensively like we had hoped. You know, we talked about if Syracuse was going to win, what would they need to do? Well, look, I said that if they were going to win, the offensive line would need to play well in both the run game and the pass game, and both they really struggled with. I mean, offensively, Syracuse gave up 8 sacks last week. For a team that's supposed to get rid of the ball fairly quickly with the quarterback, 8 sacks is far too many. Now, I'll give them a little bit of credit. A couple weeks ago, NC State had 8 sacks against Florida State too. So, you know, it's not all bad, but 8 sacks in any football game is way too many. So the offensive line did not play well in the pass game. And then obviously in the run game, check out the stat. 37 carries in this game total between quarterbacks and running backs, receivers, anyone running the ball. 41 yards of running offense. 37 carries, 41 yards, 2.4 yards per carry. Enough said. Next.
Unfortunately, that play calling was what they call suspect. I don't know, guys. I don't know. I feel like it was a lot of timidity. Starting off, you got to punch people in the face. You got to come out on fire. That didn't happen. 3 and out the first 3-4 series. not moving the ball at all in the first half and not putting any points on the board until 54 seconds left in the third quarter. I apologize, but it's not going to happen. It's not going to work out that way. Very disappointed. The offensive line, good God, I understand the center's hurt. We're still trying to recoup from that, but something's got to give. I mean, Font talked about the 8 sacks. What about the false starts? What about all the penalties? Oh my God, 12 penalties versus North Carolina State's 4 penalties, and most of them were on offense.
Blame us. Okay, I'll take the blame.
I don't know. I don't know where to start. I don't know where to stop. I mean, Tommy's maturing. He's getting there. But you can't put him in predictable situations. I mean, it wasn't the fakes. That's not a fake. That's what it looked like. Where it was clear that it was a run read. He was going to give the ball. There was no decision, no read other than, hey, here's the ball. The lane's already clogged up, and now we have a tackle for loss on first down, on second down. Now on third down, we're going to force Tommy to throw the ball, which everybody knows he's going to do it. And that D-line that you were facing, they're animalistic. So I don't know. Defense played well.
Well, and that's the important thing is we saw this defense struggle against Maryland. We saw them struggle against Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
They gave up a lot of points to Western Michigan.
Sure.
This is a game that they held NC State to one offensive score. And one offensive touchdown, I should say. And
did you see the touchdown? But it was a fluke in itself.
It was a fluke. There were 5 plays. There were 5 plays that NC State ran that led to this decision that we have right now, where we're questioning everything about Syracuse. But the defense is good. You talk about the pressure that they brought. They brought a lot of pressure all game. The problem is they're human beings. They're going to get tired. There were times that, once again, after 3 and out, they're back on the field again. They haven't even had a chance to catch their breath from that first stop where the offense got the ball with short field position and drove it in for 3 points. All right, you held the touchdown, get back on the field, and guess what? You got to do it all over again. And again, it's frustrating as a defensive player. I feel your pain. Offense, what the hey, man? What the heck?
And for me, there was a big turning point in the game, and it happened right before halftime. There was about 2 minutes left to go in the second quarter. Syracuse was finally moving the ball. They're down 6-0.
Oh, the timeout.
The timeout, but they're finally moving the ball. They get the ball right around the 50-yard line, and 2 plays in a row. There was an offsides and then a holding penalty.
Yeah.
Those 2 penalties, 12 penalties in the game. You know, that's messed up in itself. But 2 penalties this drive were drive killers, and it stopped them. They finally had the momentum going up the field.
Yeah.
Then they punt the ball. NC State gets the ball back and goes right down the field and scores just before halftime to make it a 13-0 game with the throwback, the quick pass to the left, throwback to the right. Had SU not had those penalties and continued that drive down the field, they would have gone into halftime as poorly as they played. They would have gone into halftime down 6-7, up 6-7. Mm-hmm. Instead, there's a 13-point swing, and they get a penalty just before halftime. Game's pretty much over at that point because your offense isn't producing anything. Then you finally get some momentum, and you shoot yourselves in the foot with some dumb, unforced errors and penalties that they had nothing to do with NC State. It had everything to do with Syracuse.
That's that whole maturity thing we were talking about, where it's just not a mature team right now. They don't understand certain situations. Coach Babers caught a lot of slack for keeping Tommy in the game last week or with Holy Cross. But I think that it was evident during Thursday's night game when you saw Tommy making some clear bonehead mistakes, and it wasn't anything other than the inexperience. He just hasn't had a lot of experience to understand that if you're already past the tackle box, you could throw it away, and if you're still in the tackle box, you can't throw it away. Those things kind of played a part where we talk about the ball not moving forward but actually moving backwards. And like I said, it's unfortunate, but the maturity has to happen quickly.
Well, here's what was interesting. When I was watching the game, and I was also following along on Twitter, and I like to read what people are saying in it, and a national sports writer for ESPN.com wrote maybe one of the most interesting and telling tweets during that game. Mm-hmm. And his tweet was, we realize now who the most indispensable person in college football was last year. Mm-hmm. It was Eric Dungy. And I thought that was really profound because the point is, Eric Dungy covered up so many warts on this team last year that now that we're seeing, because Tommy DeVito, and no fault of his own, he's not Eric Dungy. Nobody expected him to be. But now we realize just how much Eric Dungy did for this program.
And that's a shame that people are just now realizing how valuable the quarterback is. There's a reason why you protect them. There's a reason why they wear those nice little red jerseys and people say stay off the quarterback during practice, all right? Because the element that the way the game can change just off the fact of what the quarterback can do as far as whether he passes the ball or whether he runs the ball himself. But if you have to account for the quarterback in multiple phases of the game, it changes everything drastically. One of the most dangerous quarterbacks ever to play college football was Michael Vick. Yeah.
He could run the ball. He ran the ball against us a
ran
couple
the ball
times.
he ran the ball like a wide receiver or a running back, threw the ball like Dan Marino or Troy Aikman or whatever you want to say. All right, it was coming out like a missile. But in the same token, you can't drop back with 8 in coverage. You have to rush him. You have to have some type of contain. You can't blitz him. Somebody's got to stay and wait for him to bounce. So that element, I think, when Eric brought that to the game, like watching some of his highlights, jumping over people, I mean, oh, my God. Yeah, it was valuable.
I think that, and I don't want to get too big into the past just because it is what it is, but first of all, Michael Vick tore us up. He was a dog out there. He was a beast out there. Eric Dungy just signed with the Cleveland Browns last week. He got on the practice squad, so big shout out to you, E. Dungy. But what I think that we're lacking in that quarterback position is, leadership and experience, like you said. But the other thing is just straight up toughness. There was a couple plays there throughout the game where I'm not saying toughness in terms of play and don't play, like take yourself out of the game. I'm not saying certain hits should take you out of the game or not take you out of the game. What I'm saying is that when you drop back at quarterback in Division I football and you make the decision to run and you're close to that sideline, if you have a chance to get the first down or run out of bounds, you get the first down. If you think you're going to get a sack, you try to you tuck it and run, like you've been talking all year about tucking the ball and running. There was one time where I saw Tommy tuck the ball and literally fall to the floor, to the turf, and no one had hit him because he was just anticipating the hit. So the toughness wasn't there. So I just felt like the guys didn't really have his back just because he didn't show a whole lot of toughness.
Wow.
What do you think?
Wow. I don't want to touch that one. He's from Jersey. You better be tough.
Come on, dirty Jersey.
You better
Come
be tough.
on.
All right. I don't know. I do understand what you were saying, though, because there was a third down play where the running back was open. Mo Neal slipped out, and he could have dumped it, but I think that the eyes got a little big. You heard the footsteps coming, and tucked it a little prematurely. But I'm not gonna question your toughness. You're from Jersey. You better be tough. God darn it.
Well, I want to say this too. And it's not all about the quarterback. The run game was not there. We've talked about all year with a rookie quarterback, a rookie starter. He may be a sophomore, but he's a rookie starter. The run game has to set up the pass game. The run game has to protect this quarterback and this suspect offensive line as well. Mo Neal.
And that's right there. That's the tough thing you said. I mean, the suspect offensive line. How do you establish the run game if your line is suspect?
You got to at least try, Jay. You got to at least try. Mo Neal had 8 carries. Now he only had 31 yards. But Abdul Adams, 7 carries. So that's 15 carries between both your running backs. And you have a quarterback that you're trying to protect. You got to figure out a way, stay the course, run the football. And you're only down, Jay, but you're only down 13 points at halftime.
I'm going to say here.
They were only down 13. They weren't out of the game.
Specific. We can't just say run the football because it doesn't work that way because you tried to run it on first down, tried to run it on second down.
They didn't try to run it on first and second down because he only had 8 carries.
Well, because how many 3 and outs did they have? They had a lot of 3 and outs. That's why. There wasn't a lot of opportunities on that field. Defense stayed on the field all the game.
Yeah.
All right? Yeah, I'm sorry.
No.
We got to run. I don't care what he says. You got to run the ball.
Getting into it.
Man, let me drink some
But
water.
be creative. Just be creative.
So let's move this conversation forward, okay? So the game's over. They're 3-3 after 6 games. They have 6 games left. And Coach Baber said all season long, between games 4 through 6, we'd really know who they are and what they are. Today at his press conference, this is an exact quote. I wrote this down. I watched this morning. He said, "I'm not happy with how things have gone, but now all that stuff is behind us, and there's no rose-colored glasses here. That's what we are. Now get better." And then he added at the end of that, everyone has the responsibility to get better, coaches included.
Yeah.
So now, when we go back to the famous Denny Green quote, they are who we thought they were.
Mm-hmm.
These guys aren't who we thought they were. we thought they'd be better than this. So, Andre, I'll start with you. Who are they?
They're average. I hate to say it because they won 10 games last year. They only lost 3 games last year, and
different
all of a
team.
sudden,
That
the
is a
first
different
6
team.
games this year, they've only won 3 games and lost 3 games. But you're right. College football, kids graduate, offensive linemen graduate, your quarterback graduates, defensive linemen graduate. So it's just a constant process. That's why when you're competing for your job and you're competing at Division I football, Division I athletics, you can't afford to miss on any recruits. It sucks to say it for everybody, but it's like you can't miss. You can't miss on a quarterback. You can't miss on an offensive tackle. You need these positions to establish your program, and right now we're not established. We don't have a niche. Like you said, who are we? We don't know who we are because we have nothing to hang our hat on at SU right now. You know, back in the day, it would be like, oh, well, at the end of the day, we can always run the option. Or, you know, when we played, you can always give the ball to Walter Reyes or you know, James Mungro or somebody like that. Now it's like, well, who do we give the ball to? Because our quarterback is suspect. Our offensive line is suspect in protecting him. Our running backs are suspect because our run game doesn't get going because it seems like the offensive line isn't really doing all that well. You know where I'd go? Every single play? Tristan Jackson, 9 catches, 106 yards last week. Maybe they got to figure out a way to get him the ball more if he has some protection. They got to figure something out right now because the offense is anemic. It's slow. The pace that Coach Babers was talking about, getting all these plays and, you know, orange is the new fast, all that, that's not really happening right now, and it's a constant struggle. And on top of that, we're not moving the ball and we're not scoring any points. As great as the defense is playing, and the Greek defense is playing like straight-up ballers, running all around, offense, it's 3 phases of the game. There's 3 phases of the game, and right now we're only playing well in 2 of them.
So I'm going to quote the great Andre Three Stacks. I know you like to think your stuff doesn't stink, but lean a little closer and roses really smell like boo-boo. That's that offense right now. It's boo-boo. Okay? I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to say anything else, all right? Offensive line, a lot of holes, a lot of question marks. A work in progress at quarterback. He's still learning. I believe in you. You're from Jersey. You got athletes at receiver and animals at receiver. You got some animalistic skills with Mo Neal, but the unfortunate thing is you can't get them the ball. You can't get them the plays where they can flourish. So, boo, 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 boo. Defense, you guys are great. You guys are ballers out there.
You're going to start a team war, bro. Offense versus defense.
I didn't even want to start this thing. I was going to be very, very politically correct today. But seeing how the offense already took it there, and that's where I'm going to take it. And that's the whole beautiful thing with this show, where we're former players. I feel as though players can't really say what they want to say.
I know where you're going with this. I know where you're going.
When we played and RJ was our quarterback, I had to, you know, hey, we're going to keep trying. Guess what? Different day and age right now. Boo-boo and a great squad on defense. So what do we have right now? We have a defensive team that has to score the ball. Point blank period. Defense, you want to win, you got to score. Times like this, I wish I was a tennis player or a golfer, where it's great because if you do your job as a golfer, you'll pretty much win. You know, you'll come out on top. You know, you don't really have to rely on anybody else. Unfortunately, with football, it's a team sport. If one half does what they need to do and the other half doesn't, you don't come out successful. You get 3-3. And the 3 games that you won were against opponents that were not very strong. So right now, I like what you said about an average team, but it's swaying more of a good defensive team, average offensive team, boo-boo.
Yeah, but it's a team, so offense and defense are together. So either way, they're all on the same squad. Yeah. They got to figure out a way to get it together. And just a quick shout-out to your defenders. You know, we're going defense, blah, blah, blah. Andrew Armstrong. Come on. 14 total tackles. Yeah, he did. 2 tackles for loss, 6 solo tackles, and he had an interception. Andrew Armstrong. And he made some huge plays down the stretch that helped get the team into position to win the game when it just didn't happen. Evan Foster, 10 total tackles, 5 solo tackles, and 2 passes defended. You know, you had Coleman, Robinson on the defensive end.
Usual suspects.
Yeah, every game they're applying pressure. You're starting to get some healthy players back in the game. You know, after the bye week, and that's another point. All of this terrible play by SU after a bye week. At what point, you know, defense played well, but you know, after a bye week, you expect, especially with Coach Babers. Coach Babers is a great coach. You expect for, you know, the kids to come out there and perform after a bye week since they had all of this time to get themselves ready. And that's not what happened. I expect SU to come out a lot stronger, not so many penalties, and have proper execution after they had 10 full days to get ready. I'm disappointed in the players, but at the same time, I hate saying this. But Coach Babers has to take some of the blame as well. I hate saying that's my dude, and I got confidence in him.
None of that.
But
Coach Babers,
but,
doing a great job.
And he knows that. He knows that. He'll take credit in the future. He'll take credit. He'll take credit when it's bad, but he'll also take credit.
Yeah,
when it's
and he said in his quote, everyone has a responsibility to get better, coaches included.
That's right.
And this schedule is not easy. Florida State, Boston College, Duke, Louisville, Wake Forest, and Pitt coming up next week, who we're going to talk about right after this break. Want to remind Buffalo football fans, tune into Rock Sports Network Facebook page Tuesday nights, 5 o'clock for the Huddle Football Show, where you can get all the news, views, and insight on the Bills and the rest of the NFL. That is your 4-1 Buffalo Bills playoff bound. Playoff Buffalo Bills.
Stand up.
Yeah. We're going to be right back with a Pitt preview. Pitt preview. Let me say that again. Pitt preview right after this on Rock Sports Net.
Pitt preview.
Only $7.99 for a Bill Gray's Great Plate every Tuesday.
Hi, my name is Henry, and I want to welcome you to Batavia Downs Gaming. We want you to love it, not just like it here. We went to our customers and asked them what we can do better. You said you wanted a hotel, so we built one. More and better food. We did that too. A separate place to smoke and play? We even did that. Batavia Downs Gaming and Hotel is the right size with the right people in the right location. Batavia Downs Gaming. Come here to dine, stay, and play.
Hi, I'm Steve Ralph. We've been selling cars for more than 80 years. Our best values are available right now at Ralph Honda.
Come see the 2020 Hondas. There's something for every lifestyle.
Whatever you're looking for in your next car, you'll find it at Ralph Honda.
Daddy had surgery and his pain was put to ease.
Lattimore Physical Therapy.
Back on the Ozone Football Show, it's brought to you by Lattimore Physical Therapy and Sports Rehab. Lattimore currently offers 25 clinics throughout the Rochester area, including nearby locations in North Chili and Greece. More than 50 certified physical therapists have experience in treating most conditions and sports injuries, and in most cases, they're able to initially offer consultations in 24 hours for your convenience. LattimorePT.com. Okay, guys, we're 3-3. We start the second half of the schedule, the meat of the ACC schedule. Pitt comes to town Friday night at the Dome, nationally televised again. Pitt comes in 4-2, but this is not your father's Pitt team. They are no longer ground and pound.
Well, it wouldn't be my father's Pitt team because we're Syracuse fans all the way. Period. We don't cheer for Pitt at all. So continue. Go ahead.
Back in the day.
See, there you go.
Before
some love for Tony Dorsett and the '76 national champions.
Come on, man.
All their other national championships prior to 1930.
Whatever. We won in '59. We won in '59.
So, I will tell you a funny side note. When I was working for the University of Buffalo, and I was a sideline reporter, in the end zone at Pitt, it said 8-time national champs. And I was looking at it, I was like, wait a minute. How'd they get 8 national championships? It was 1915, 1916. They had only one championship since 1932, which was the 1976 one. So
that doesn't count. No.
It's beside the point. I don't want any bulletin board material. But this is Syracuse's most frequent rival. This will be the 75th meeting between these two teams. They've faced each other every year since 1955. So Big East days, ACC days, you guys each played many games against Pitt.
Mm-hmm.
What's Pitt week like for Syracuse football players?
You want to touch that one?
Well, it depends upon where you're going. If you're going on the road, it's exciting because you going to Pitt is exciting because when we were coming up, they started playing at Heinz Field, and you had a chance to go play where the NFL players were playing, which is they share a field with the Steelers. But honestly, for us, it was Pitt week and Boston College week. For me, that was just the 2 weeks that were always stuck out in terms of the effort that was given in practice. Coaches just seem to be a little bit more focused. Everything seems to be going a little bit smoother and a little bit more intense. But when we were playing, it didn't matter who it was. If it was a Big East game, it was a rivalry. And that's how it was for football and basketball, of course. But Pitt week more specifically, it was just you knew you were going to be in for a tough game. So you had to get yourself ready all week long. Because at the end of the day, you're dealing with some blue-collar kids that are gonna play for 4 straight quarters. So whether they're throwing it, and then we had to deal with Larry Fitzgerald, so that wasn't fun. And I was on the sideline, and it still wasn't fun to watch.
We still won. Don't worry about it.
We won, but we had to deal with Larry. It wasn't always pretty. So Pitt week's always a great week. But it was always fun playing against them in the old Big East.
Yeah, I'm more of a Light is listening to, jazz guy. But Pitt, BC, you better believe it's Metallica week. All right,
Right.
Crank it up a little bit.
Right.
You're talking about fired up. These guys really should be fired up. This is rivalry. This is what college football is all about. Getting together with guys that you don't like, especially when you talk about the area where a lot of these guys were probably recruited. They probably played against each other in high school. I know for me, with Larry Fitzgerald, Gerald Hayes, guys from Pitt, and then the guys from BC that I played against in high school, it was kind of like already, hey, I can't wait to see you guys. I'm going to tear you up a little bit. But it should be really electric. I can't wait to see the intensity that this team comes out with. I felt like last week it was really kind of laid back, almost. But really come out on fire. Like, it's a rivalry. Once again, Megadeth, Metallica, I don't know. Whatever you got to listen to jolt it up another notch. But you got to come out guns a-blazing. And hopefully with it being a rivalry, it can really catapult that for this team.
Not only is it a rivalry, but it's also going to be played on ESPN. It's a national
National
nationally
games aren't no
televised
good
game.
for us right
I know
now.
we didn't play
We're
well
not- we're
last
not
week, so
good with
we haven't played well nationally. But you got to look at it as an opportunity to just to show recruits that what we're about. This is just another chance for us to make up for what we did last week. And I'll be honest with you, there's no reason in the world why we can't play with Pitt. I thought that we should have played obviously last week against NC State. I thought we had a chance and we should have, coulda, woulda, shoulda beat them. I also think this is a 50-50 game versus Pitt as well. We have our chances to win this game if we can take our advantage of a couple of things.
Just can't wait.
We're going to be okay. Yeah, we just can't wait. We have an opportunity to beat Pitt.
Well,
and the next game is the most important.
Yeah.
And these games traditionally have been unpredictable. Last year was an overtime game. It was one of the 3 overtime games in the series. You remember back in 2016, Dino Babers' first year was that crazy 76-61 game. There's an FBS record 20 touchdowns scored in that game. Pitt had 11. Syracuse had 9. I mean, these are the type
Defense
of
wasn't there that day, were they? Sorry.
These are the type of games against Pitt where you can't say, well, on paper this should be a Pitt win, Syracuse
it's
win.
a 50-50 game.
Yeah, I mean anything
gut
can
check.
happen.
This is what they call a gut check. You got 5 of the last 7 games where they played Pitt. They were decided by 7 or less points. All right. Pitt is not a slouch. Let's be very clear. They're second in the nation in sacks, and they're number 19th in total defense. So this is very similar as far as stout defenses. The only problem being Pitt's offense is a little bit more established. But I feel like for Andres Fields, if they come out on fire, all right, it's a 50-50 chance. It's a rivalry game, all right. It's going to be a close game. Just come out on fire. Come out swinging. Throw a haymaker.
And as good as Pitt's defense is, you said they're ranked 19th in the nation overall, but Pitt was up 23 points against Duke. Pitt was up 23 points, and they only won the game at the end 30-33. So
what did you just say?
People can score on this defense.
What did you just say?
People can score on this
they
defense.
They won. All right,
yeah,
I
but
get what you're saying.
But the defense didn't play as well. And I'm saying is that Syracuse has to figure out a way to get those quick points just like Duke did and continue to compete for all 4 quarters and not dig themselves in the hole and not have to come back from behind and still figure out a way to score those points. Because I think Syracuse's defense is going to show up once again, but now the offense obviously needs to pick up the pace.
Well, and Jamil mentioned that maybe the defense has to score too.
Maybe
defense has got to score.
Special teams is good. Special teams is.
I'll put it like this: the defense is good. We know the defense is good, but the problem is what the problem is. If you keep them on the field, you put them back on that field. I don't care how strong you are. At some point, you're going to break. Right. All right. Human nature is human nature. We all get tired. It happens. And at that point, that's where the missed tackles start. That's when the misassignments start. And that's when the points start coming on the board. All right? So hopefully Syracuse offense can come out, throwing some haymakers, some punches, stay on that field, and everything will be fine. But I promise you, if the first 3 series, like last week or the week before, first 3 series is 3 and out, oh boy, get ready for it.
Early success is important, especially when you're dealing with a young sophomore quarterback. Getting his confidence up early in the game is something that Coach Babers and his staff have to do, and if they want to find success against Pitt.
We got a question on the board, and this is from George Fontenette. From the Fontenette family.
Hey,
so
George
let me get my phone real quick.
I'm gonna start this answer before I give you the question. That I'm glad we don't know the answer to this question yet publicly. No. I'm gonna answer for you.
Okay.
I'm
with you.
I don't need to phone a friend on this one.
Go ahead.
But I'm glad we haven't found out, and I don't want to find out But the question is, have you found out who the backup quarterback is at Syracuse? The answer is yes, I actually did.
Yes.
Because my father
Yes.
asked me this last week. Now, my parents live in Syracuse, live in Eastwood. My dad said, who's his backup?
They got like 3 of them.
And I said, well, Christian Welch is the backup.
Yep.
And Rex Culpepper's there as well.
Culpepper, that's what I was looking at.
But, and Jamil said this earlier, I still believe in Tommy DeVito. And I know he's young and he's got some warts, but I believe in this kid, and I think he's going to be a good one. He just needs a little more time for those guys in front of him to give him to go through his reads.
I thought you were going to say he needs a little bit more time in terms of experience, and I'm like, no, he literally needs more time to throw the football behind the offensive line. You know, and any quarterback is going to be better with more time, obviously. But, you know, as a young sophomore quarterback, you got to be able to protect him with the run game like we talked about, and you got to be able to protect him in the pass game. And if you can't protect him in the pass game, you got to figure out a way to get the ball in and out of his hands quickly into your playmakers' hands, like Mo Neal, like Abdul Adams, and then like Tristan Johnson as well. So, you know, it's important to get the ball out of his hands to protect him so he doesn't have to take those hits so he can play a full 4 quarters.
All right, guys, we're going to
Culpepper, the backup.
We're gonna go.
I say Culpepper because Culpepper has more experience than Welch.
He does.
So last year, Culpepper played some. So I'd say if we were to see a backup at any point in time, I think it'd be Rex Culpepper.
Fair
there you go, Dad. There's your answer. Big shout out.
Where's Bob Dumas?
Thanks,
at?
Bob.
Hey, Bob.
Yeah. So now let's go out on this one, and I know Jamil's going to defer to you, Andre. So we'll ask you this first.
Hey, you already.
I know it already. I've done the show a couple times.
Yeah.
So, give me a key for Syracuse to beat Pitt, because I'm not going to ask you guys a score prediction because when you play Pitt, anything can happen. But for Syracuse to win, what do they need to do?
For Syracuse to beat Pittsburgh, they got to be tougher than them. Period. Offense, defense, special teams. Syracuse has to figure out a way to bend their nose in traffic and get tougher than Pitt. Pitt's a blue-collar team. We're a blue-collar team, too. We got to run the ball, and we got to be tougher than they are, period. That's how we win.
I like that one. I mean, I want to piggyback off that whole toughness. I'm going to say punch him in the face. Simple. If Syracuse can, on their first opening drive the length of the field, just drive the length of the field, exude your dominance, punch him in the face. Yep. I believe in this team. I think that's going to catapult Tommy as far as his confidence. It's going to give that offensive line a little bit of a gut check where, okay, we can do this, because I think right now they have a lot of questions. And I think that'll be a good thing. I'll leave it at that. Punch him in the face, drive the ball, first drive, score.
There's nothing like those nice 15-play, 90-yard or 80-yard drives, 15 plays, get a couple third downs
on the sideline.
Yeah, and let the defense rest. If you anytime you have an opportunity, like as great as SU's defense is playing, like you've been saying all season long, Jay, we got to figure out a way. Even if we don't score, get a couple first downs just to keep the defense off the field. Let them get some kind of rest so this defensive line can continue to pressure offensive lines. And right now we're not doing that. They're getting 3 plays and out 3. SU punted the ball. I wrote this down.
Come on now, yeah.
SU punted the ball 7 times last week. Sterling Hoffrichter had 7 punts, and he averaged 44 yards a kick. That's not bad.
How many of those in the first half? In the first half, that's how the first half rolled out. Punt, interception, punt. You can't do that. You can't.
I was bored. And I was disappointed the whole time. We got to improve if we want to beat Pitt. And a special shout-out, Kevin Collier from Rochester, New York.
Yeah.
Went to my high school, Churchville Chila High School. He went to Pitt. He played with LaShawn McCoy and all those guys. Kevin, I'm going to come up with a bet for you because I guarantee you we're going to beat Pitt this week. That's right. I said
it.
Guarantee. Syracuse is going to come back.
Bulletin board.
Yes. I said it. They didn't say it. I say it because you know why? Coach Babers is a good enough coach to motivate his team to do something different than they've done before. We can beat Clemson last year. There's no reason why we can't beat Pitt. We're beating Pitt.
There you go. Pen drop. By the way, Dumas family, you need to step up because I just looked. Kit McDaniels, my mom, Eastwood, represented on there with a shout-out on there. I got a reference into my dad, my mom.
Wow.
We got
my wife. I'm looking for Bob Dumas. I'm looking for Dave Dumas. I'm looking for Tara Dumas. I'm looking for Sean. Any Dumases out there?
Hey, and you
can I get a Marshall? Can I get a Marshall?
Hey, you know what else we're looking for? Advertisers. If you guys want to advertise, add all with us. If you know anyone, if you have any friends, barbers, dentists, doctors, nurses, whatever. We're certainly looking to promote your brand and help you guys out. So anything you guys can do to get us some promotion, get us some money in our pockets. Let's do it. Advertisers welcome. Rock Sports Network.
Jamil still needs his dog.
Oh, don't
Rock,
worry.
rocksportsnet@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Get in touch with our guy Gary. He's right there. He's back there. He's pushing all the buttons. He's in control. You can't see him, but he's the only reason why we're on. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Syracuse Pitt, nationally televised, Friday night in the Dome. That beat means we got to go. For Jameel, Andre, I'm Brendan. Thanks so much for watching the Ozone.